with type 1 diabetes. If you don't have diabetes, this isn't going to make a lot of sense to you. So you can skedaddle. But it's going to be a fun one because today was wild and the last week has been wild. And I want to make sure you guys have the tips and tools to live your life with type 1 diabetes and actually enjoy it, right? I probably still have goggle marks on my face. I just swam 1.5 miles. So it's like permanently imprinted on my head. But we did it with 100% time and range. If you don't know what that means, well, it means that my blood sugar stayed perfectly stable the whole time that I was in the water, which was 102 lengths of the pool. Ugh. And then I ran straight into a mile run. And then I said, you know what? I'm tired. And so I came back home. But today, I want to share with you how I prepared for that. Because in the pool, when you're swimming for 47 minutes, I think was my total time for that one, is decent. You don't have blood sugar readings. So you can't rely on seeing your blood sugars, which kind of puts me in a spot where I used to be when I was first diagnosed, which is like no CGM, right? CGMs are fantastic. I would say it's one of the biggest secrets to identifying patterns with your diabetes is having access to a CGM. If you don't know what it is, it's one of these guys. So I wear Dexcom right now. Got a couple other ones that I've tried out over the years, but ultimately it gives you those readings on your phone, on your devices, so you can see where the blood sugars are going, right? So best strategy with the CGM is, or best strategy that you can start with is reacting. You see blood sugars, you start moving up and down, you start making decisions, give more insulin, eat more sugar. But when that's not an option, when I'm in the pool, I can't carry my phone and look at it while I'm swimming, right? I mean, I could technically, but it wouldn't be very efficient. So I have no blood sugar readings the entire time that I'm swimming 1.5 miles. So when doing that, there are a number of precautions that go into play. I want to talk to you guys about that today. Kind of give you some insight into what I do to keep blood sugars where I want them. So that range, by the way, I started at 148. Now, before I left my house, I was in the 80s. So did not want to enter into the pool in the 80s, blood sugar wise. Got to 148 and felt that was my sweet spot. I had a very limited time window, so it had to be good enough. Hopped in, and when I came out, I was at 97. So it's a good thing I didn't stay in the 80s and just hop into the pool. But that's something that used to happen to me a lot before I understood how blood sugars work, before I had mastered this thing. Because a lot of people don't understand is that different types of exercises are going to impact blood sugars differently. So a swim, very different than a bike, right? I got my fancy new bike behind me. Oh my gosh, it's so fast. I love it so much. But then running, also very different than swimming or biking, right? And if you didn't know, I'm training for a half Ironman right now, which is a 70.3 mile race. It's ridiculous. I know. I'm still coming to terms with this thing that I've committed to. But to get to the story, I started in the 80s. I didn't just have a snack, right? When I was like, oh, I need to get my blood sugars higher. It wasn't just a snack. It was a precisely measured snack. Now, this is because I know exactly how many carbs I need to achieve a desired spike. And so if I wanted to get up to 130, 140, 150, I know how many carbs to eat to get there. And that's one of the first pieces of the puzzle is to be able to say, I need 5 carbs, 10, 15, 20, right? And you're like, how do you know? It comes from formulas. Everything that I do surrounds what we call diabetes math. I know that sounds complicated. Diabetes is complicated, but diabetes math simplifies it. And if you're like, I can't do diabetes math, that's got to be like calculus and stuff. If you can do like 1 + 1 = 2, it's going to work great for you. It's totally fine. Pretty simple, actually, once you get the hang of it. So my first step is to calculate how many carbs I need to go from 80 to 150. 150 was my target. I missed it by 2 points. I'm okay with that, right? I get to 150. I hop in the pool. I'm also calculating what my expected drop looks like with blood sugars, right? And I want to make sure that's balanced out with how many carbs I consume during or after my swim to make sure I don't go low during or after the activity. Now, in addition to knowing how many carbs to take in to go from 80 to 150, I also need to know how much time that's going to take. So if I'm at 80 and I'm standing at the pool, I can't reasonably expect my blood sugars to go from 80 to 150 in 1 minute before I hop into the pool. So there is some planning that goes into place. And so to walk you through kind of the expectations that I look at, my watch is telling me it's time to go live. We're doing it. The expectations that I look at are what we call timelines. And I know I'm running fast through this. I just want this to be packed with value. Hopefully you guys can follow along. So the timing of this event is that an hour before I ended up going into the pool, I'm checking on blood sugars. I want to make sure that I have a good idea of where blood sugars are going. Do I have insulin on board? What are the potential factors that I might need to consider to make this swim safe? When I say safe, I do mean safe, because if I go low in the pool with my face down in the water, I drown, right? There's an urgent low and I start losing feeling in my hands and I'm not next to the edge, blah, 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 blah. I'd sink. I would die, right? I mean, the lifeguards maybe would catch me in time, but they would give me CPR. They probably wouldn't know to give me sugar after resuscitating me. So it's complicated. You got to really play these things safe. So before I even consider packing up to go to the pool, I'm looking at blood sugars. Hey, what are they doing? Are they dropping? Are they spiking? Are they stable? And what might I need to do to get them into a position where they're ready for a 1.5 mile swim? Now, caveat here, if I were going to the pool and it was with my daughter and we were just going to play around in the kiddie pool, very different scenario. Does not have to be taken as seriously, right? Then it's just a quick snack and let's go. I can get by, right? And I'm probably also going to have constant readings of my blood sugar. So it's not as dangerous. I'm not face down. The water's probably a foot deep. So very different scenario. This is where context matters. Different activities, different situations require different strategies. I hope this is making sense so far. So in looking at my blood sugars in the 80s before heading into a swim, that was going to be 102 lengths of the pool, which I committed to 100. The last 2 was just me proving to myself that I got this. I could keep going if I wanted to, right? So I got to 102 and was like, I did it, and for me, that's also a new personal best. I felt good about myself. But looking at the blood sugar prep for this, there's different types of activities. Biking, for example. A couple weeks ago, I went out with this cycling group and we did 60 miles out through the mountains and rivers and valleys and beaches. It was crazy. We actually ended up touching into 12 different cities on that bike ride. And if I were to miscalculate how many carbs I needed to take with me, it's tough luck. I'd be passed out on the side of the road, right? So I am testing these blood sugar formulas to the max, because if I have any errors at all, it could be game over for me, right? Now, I don't expect most people to use blood sugar formulas that we teach to do those types of things. It's bordering on unsafe, right? And the way I'm doing it is safe, of course. But most people think, I just want to go for a 2-mile bike ride with my family, down the boardwalk or something. I just want to go for an hour-long hike with my friends out in the mountains and not feel like I'm going to have to get airlifted out of here. People who are swimming, it's at the lake, right? And you're just going out with the boat, or maybe you're, I don't know, playing with your grandkids in the backyard, right? Most of the time, it's not as serious as this. But if you're able to predict precisely where blood sugars are going to go, it's a lot less frustrating when you have uncertain blood sugars that creep up on you, and you have the low that pulls you out of the activity or the moment with your family, or you have the highs that, for me, make me very frustrated, to put it lightly. I hate when blood sugars go out of range, which is probably why I work so hard to keep them in range, because I feel happier when blood sugars are cooperating. So looking at how do we optimize our blood sugars for a higher quality of life, to have more freedom, step one is to get control over them, right? And I mentioned this in a recent episode, and this phrase just stuck with me. I said it on the fly, and as I said it, I was like, oh, that was a good one. And I said, I'm now living with diabetes, not for my diabetes. And for so long, I lived my entire life, the ins and outs, for my diabetes. It's like, what do I have to do to force blood sugars to cooperate? And now it feels a lot more harmonious, where blood sugars and I are just like, if I support you, you support me, right? We can get along. We can be happy together. All right, cool. And really, that's all it is finding a balancing point for your blood sugars. You're just supporting your blood sugars, giving them what they need. Sometimes they need more insulin. Sometimes they need more sugar. And that's it. Now, there are a lot of factors that influence that, right? The timing of your insulin or of your sugar, the volume of your insulin or of your sugar. Those are the two biggest factors that are going to influence it. But we also have to consider circulation speed, digestion speed, time of day, insulin resistance versus sensitivity. Obviously, there are more complicated topics that we could dive into. But for today, I want you to at least see what is possible as we start peeling apart the layers of diabetes and understanding more about, okay, if I'm going to play with my grandkids or my kids, in this example for me, how do I prepare for this so that there are no hiccups? How do I prepare for this so that I can support my blood sugars in staying stable so that I don't get pulled out of the moment and I can be there with my daughter, for example, or there with my wife or my parents or grandparents, right? These are the pieces of life that I don't want diabetes to pull away from us. And so that's why I share these stories of, how I get blood sugar stable. Excuse me. My daughter coughed in my face all last night. So there's a chance I might be getting sick right now. So how do we optimize blood sugars for freedom with type 1 diabetes? It starts with control. Look for your patterns. Try to understand what makes blood sugars go up, what makes blood sugars go down. That's the first step. Second step is starting to use those patterns to identify averages that you can take action on, right? So I know how many carbs I need to go from 80 to 150. Like I said, I went from 80 to 148. It was 2 points off. It was very close. But getting to that level of precision means that I also have peace of mind. I get to go into that pool knowing it's going to be okay, right? And many years ago, it was always a question in the back of my head, am I going to make it through this? Not like I was always a nervous wreck the whole time, but there's always that thought in the back of my head, like, am I going to go low or is it going to go high? I hope it stays in range. And hope is not a great strategy. It's a good thing to have. I want you to have hope, and that's why I'm here sharing these with you, but it's not a strategy. So if you're looking at diabetes as this beast that can't be controlled, you've been taught wrong. And this is what my doctor used to tell me, my endocrinologist too, all the time. I'd go in there and say, okay, I'm going high and low more often than I would like. How do I fix this? It's hard. And literally they told me, oh, that's just how diabetes is. It's going to go up and down. You can't really do anything about that. And I accepted that because I'm supposed to. It's our doctor, right? It's our medical team. And I was like, well, I guess they know best, right? And that poison is out there. So many people I talk to on consultations, on the phone. I talked to a lot of you guys. I've talked to thousands of type 1s and type 2s, gestational prediabetes. It's a lot of people are misled by their medical teams. It's unfortunate, right? Where they are told to settle. They're told to deal with it. They go in asking for strategies. How do I lower my A1C below a 7, below a 6? How do I keep it there without increasing my risk of lows? How do I increase my time in range? How do I eat fun foods and not be stuck to these restrictive diets? How do I exercise again and not go low? Time and time again. Oh, that's just how it is from our medical teams. It's like, why must you destroy the hope that we have, the curiosity for something better than what we're currently experiencing, right? So if you're somebody like me who refuses to settle, you're like, I get it. It's going to take work. I have to figure out diabetes on my own. I have to take responsibility for this because clearly my medical team isn't here to support me with anything beyond survival, right? They help you to survive with diabetes, but you got to learn on your own how to thrive with diabetes. But the good news is I had to do it by myself. You do not. You're in this group or following me in some capacity. I share these tips. You get to go try them out, implement them. Obviously, if you guys are looking for more specific help, feel free to reach out. My emails are always open. My DMs are always open. You can also just comment on this. We exist as an educational tool to share with you our experiences, our research, and our clients' wins and with what works and what does not, so you can help shortcut the process. I don't want you to have to learn through all the trials and errors that I did. A few of them landed me in the hospital. It's not a fun trip to take. So looking at, in general, how do we optimize diabetes for freedom? We're often lied to and told that restriction is the key. The law of small numbers. If you don't eat the fun foods, if you don't exercise, if you don't play or be spontaneous, diabetes is controllable. And there is some truth to that. Restriction and consistency are definitely like hitting the easy button. But the trouble with the easy button is that you're shortcutting and missing out on all life has to offer. And for me personally, that just wasn't the route that I wanted to take. So like I said, if you're somebody who refuses to settle for less and you're looking for help on this journey, trying to figure things out, drop a comment, shoot me an email, send me a message. I'm here to support you with whatever resources we have that might assist you. In fact, I'd love to get to know you in a more direct sense so that I can know what to recommend. So I know a lot of people here are like, help me with my blood sugars. And I'm like, well, what's pushing your blood sugars out of range? Is it mealtime? Is it overnights? Is it your basal or your bolus insulin? Is it your workouts? Is it XYZ, right? There's 50 plus variables that can impact that. But if you're somebody who's looking for help, just drop a comment. We'll say drop the word coach if you want me to reach out to you. And that way I can connect with you and kind of learn a bit more about what's going on with you and your blood sugars, because we're all a little bit different. And I can support you and send some resources over that might be beneficial. But other than that, learn from my mistakes as often as possible. When I share these stories, I want you to listen in for pieces where you're like, oh, that's the thing that he did wrong, or that's the thing he did right. Learn from those so that you don't have to make the mistakes yourself. Like there's two best ways to learn in life. One is make a mistake once yourself and learn from it. And by learning, I mean like change something so it doesn't happen again. Or two, the better way of doing things, honestly, is to learn from other people's mistakes. So you don't have to make the mistake at all in the first place, right? So make mistakes yourself and learn from them. That's what I did, all my experimentation. Or two, learn from the mistakes of others so you can skate by and get to your result unscathed. So those are the two best ways to learn. Hope this one was helpful for you. I got to take off. I got another meeting with one of my clients, but I hope that one sparks some thoughts. It's not just a snack. It's not cookie cutter approaches to diabetes. It has to be fine-tuned to your needs. Here's one last little shocker I'll leave you with. That 60-mile bike ride that I went on, I had over 300 carbs just to not go low. And I stayed in range almost the entire time. That's insane. 300 carbs. You might not need 300 carbs, which is exactly why we cannot copy and paste our strategies, right? And that includes fats and proteins, by the way. So technically it was 1,800 calories that I calculated that to. I had 1,800 calories while on my bike. That's nuts. So if you want to get more dialed in with your diabetes, because for you, it might be 57 carbs. There might be a better insulin strategy where you don't have to eat carbs. I wanted to eat, so I optimized for more food on my bike because I knew I would be hungry after cycling for like 4 or 5 hours, right? But the plan has to be specific to your needs if you expect it to work with that level of precision. And you might not like precision. Maybe that's not you. Maybe you and I are completely different. That's okay. But if you're my kind of person, you like precision and the idea of blood sugar formulas, just type out the word coach. I'll reach out to you, see if I can get you some resources and at least get you started in the right direction. All right. So thanks for hanging out. Love spending time with you guys every week on Thursdays. I got a call right now with a client, but after that, I'm going to take that bike out and see if I can get another workout in. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed this one. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys have questions on, and I'll catch you next week. Every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. See you guys and keep up the fight.